Welcome to our deep dive into Vajrasana.
Vajrasana.
Yeah. You've given me some really interesting articles on this yoga pose. It's also known as Thunderbolt pose.
Ah, okay.
And I'm already pretty intrigued by it. Just the name itself, Thunderbolt, kind of evokes a sense of power and energy. And I've got to say, the idea that you practice this after meals is completely new to me.
It is unique,
Yeah.
isn't it? Most people think about yoga like with their pre-workout routine or, evening relaxation, but
Right.
Vajrasana really kind of breaks that mold.
Yeah.
It's this connection to digestion that I find so fascinating.
Okay, so before we get into how to do it and all the potential benefits, I'm just curious about the name itself, Thunderbolt pose.
Mhm.
What's the story there?
Well, the name Vajrasana comes from the Sanskrit words Vajra and Asana.
Okay.
Asana, of course, means pose, but it's Vajra, where it gets interesting. It refers to the legendary weapon of Indra, the king of the gods in Hindu mythology.
All right.
This weapon was said to be indestructible, symbolizing strength, power, and enlightenment.
Wow, that's quite a powerful image. So does the name imply that this pose is particularly challenging or intense?
Not necessarily. In fact, Vajrasana is considered a beginner-friendly pose. It's more about cultivating inner strength and stability than physical prowess. The thunderbolt aspect may be more about the energetic effects of the pose, its potential to awaken a sense of power and clarity within.
I like that. So it's not just about the physical shape, but also about the inner transformation. Okay, so how do you actually get into this pose?
It's pretty simple, actually. You start by kneeling on your mat with your knees together and your feet slightly apart.
Okay,
Then you sit back on your heels, keeping your spine straight and your hands resting on your thighs.
that sounds surprisingly straightforward.
Right.
I was expecting something a bit more, thunderbolty.
It's the subtlety that makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
While the physical posture itself might seem simple, the key really lies in the alignment and the internal focus. The Yoga Online article that you gave me emphasizes this, highlighting the importance of maintaining a straight spine and engaging your core muscles.
So even though it's beginner-friendly, there's still a level of precision involved.
Absolutely. And that's where modifications come in. The Yoga Online article also suggests using cushions or blankets to support the knees and ankles, especially for beginners or those with any knee discomfort. It's all about finding what works for your body.
Makes sense. We don't want to push ourselves beyond our limit, especially when starting out. Now let's talk about those benefits, starting with the most intriguing one, digestion.
Right.
How exactly does Vajrasana improve digestion? Is it just about the physical pressure on the abdomen?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. The gentle pressure on the abdomen does play a role,
Oh, okay.
stimulating the digestive organs and encouraging peristalsis, which is the wave-like muscle contractions that move food through the digestive tract.
So it's like giving your digestive system a gentle massage.
Exactly. But there's more to it. Some sources, like the pasted text document, suggest that Vajrasana also improves blood flow to the digestive system, providing it with more oxygen and nutrients. And because it encourages deeper breathing, it can help calm the nervous system,
Right.
which also aids digestion.
That's interesting. I know, stress can just wreak havoc on my gut, so the idea that this pose could help with both digestion and stress is appealing.
And it's not just anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
The pasted text mentions clinical studies showing measurable improvements in digestion and stress markers after just 6 to 8 weeks of consistent Vajrasana practice.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What were those studies like? Were they large scale? Who were the participants?
Unfortunately, the pasted text doesn't give a lot of detail about the specific studies.
Okay.
And this is where things get a little tricky. While many sources tout the benefits of Vajrasana, there's still a need for more robust scientific research
Yeah.
to back up these claims.
So we're relying on a mix of traditional wisdom and emerging research.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. But now I'm even more interested in learning more about those studies. What about the experience of actual practitioners? You mentioned a quote from Hardik Mehta of Sayuja Yoga.
Yes. Mehta, who is a seasoned yoga practitioner, shared his personal experience with Vajrasana, and he stated that it helps him find stability and comfort during meditation.
Huh.
This speaks to the potential benefits beyond just the purely physical.
That resonates with me. I'm not the most flexible person.
Right.
And finding a comfortable seated position for meditation can be a challenge.
Exactly. Vajrasana's ability to promote stillness and grounding could be particularly beneficial for meditation and other mindfulness practices.
Yeah, it seems like this pose is full of surprises.
Mm-hmm.
We've got digestion, stress reduction, meditation.
Mm-hmm.
What other benefits do these articles mention?
Well, if we move beyond the digestive system, several sources, including the PMC article on yoga and hypertension, point to potential cardiovascular benefits. They suggest that Vajrasana, along with other yoga poses, can contribute to lower blood pressure and improved blood sugar regulation.
Wait, really? That's a pretty significant claim. How exactly does Vajrasana impact blood pressure and blood sugar? Is it just like the relaxation aspect?
It's likely a combination of factors. The PMC article kind of dives into the potential mechanisms,
Okay.
and it suggests that certain yoga poses, including Vajrasana, can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and digest functions.
Right.
This, in turn, can lead to lower heart rate, reduced stress hormones, and improved blood flow.
So it's not just about calming the mind, it's also about like directly influencing our physiology.
Right.
That's fascinating. Are there any studies that specifically look at Vajrasana's impact on these conditions?
The PMC article cites several studies on the broader effects of yoga on hypertension, but it's difficult to isolate the impact of Vajrasana specifically. More research is definitely needed in this area.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential here, but we need more scientific evidence to confirm these specific benefits.
Precisely. And while research is catching up, we also have centuries of traditional wisdom and anecdotal evidence supporting the benefits of Vajrasana.
That's a good point. It's not just about the latest studies, it's about understanding the historical context and the lived experiences of practitioners.
Exactly. And speaking of lived experiences, the Sayuja Yoga article also highlights some anecdotal evidence regarding Vajrasana's impact on musculoskeletal health.
Oh, right. Several sources mention potential benefits for back pain and sciatica.
Right.
How does that work?
The theory is that Vajrasana strengthens the back muscles, improves posture, and stretches the spine, which can all contribute to alleviating back discomfort. Fitella, for example, suggests that Vajrasana strengthens the thighs, pelvic floor, and back muscles.
I can see how holding that pose would engage those muscles.
Uh,
But is it enough to actually make a difference for those with chronic back pain?
That's a valid question. While anecdotal evidence is promising, we need more research to understand the specific mechanisms and the long-term effects. The paste-to-text source even suggests that Vajrasana may strengthen the kneecaps and reduce menstrual pain, but again, more research is needed to substantiate these claims.
It seems like there's a lot of ground to cover here.
Yeah.
We've gone from digestion to blood pressure to back pain, and I'm guessing there's even more to explore.
You're right. There's a whole other dimension to Vajrasana that we haven't even touched on yet, the mental and emotional benefits.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We'll have to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive. But before we go there, I'm curious about something.
Okay.
While there seems to be a lot of anecdotal evidence supporting Vajrasana, you've mentioned the need for more research. Is there anything that raises a red flag for you in these articles? Anything that seems like a bit too good to be true?
That's a great question, and it brings up an important point. While Vajrasana is generally considered safe and accessible, it's not a cure-all. And like any physical practice, it's important to approach it with awareness and caution.
So are there any specific situations where someone should avoid Vajrasana or consult a healthcare professional before trying it?
Absolutely. The Sayuji Yoga article specifically advises against Vajrasana for individuals with certain conditions like severe arthritis, spinal cord disorders, and recent knee surgery. It also recommends caution for those with any knee issues,
Yeah.
given the deep knee flexion involved in the pose.
That makes sense. And I remember reading in the PMC article that certain intense yoga practices or breath retention techniques should be avoided by people with hypertension. So even though Vajrasana is considered a gentle pose, it's not completely without risks.
Exactly. And it's always best to err on the side of caution, especially if you have any pre-existing health conditions.
Right.
The Fitella article also mentions pregnancy as a situation where modifications and guidance from a healthcare professional are recommended.
It sounds like a good rule of thumb is to listen to your body
Yes.
and consult a doctor or qualified yoga instructor
Yes.
if you have any doubts or concerns.
I couldn't agree more. Yoga is a practice of self-awareness, and that includes being mindful of our limitations and seeking guidance when needed.
Well, I think this is a great place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dives into Vajrasana, the origins of the name to the potential benefits and precautions. And I'm already eager to explore the mental and emotional aspects of this pose in our next segment.
I'm looking forward to that as well. It's in that realm where Vajrasana truly shines as a practice for cultivating inner peace and well-being.
So we spent the first part of this deep dive exploring like the more tangible aspects of Vajrasana, the physical posture, the digestive benefits, even its potential impact on blood pressure and back pain. Now, I'm excited to delve into what you call the realm where Vajrasana truly shines,
Yes.
its mental and emotional benefits.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. We touched on how Vajrasana can calm the nervous system, but let's explore that further. Remember the pasted text?
Yeah.
Mentioned a link between Vajrasana and reduced cortisol production.
Right, cortisol being like that pesky stress hormone that seems to be at the root of so many modern ailments.
Exactly.
But how does simply sitting in this pose affect our hormones?
Well, it's believed that by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode,
Yep.
Vajrasana counteracts the effects of the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for our fight or flight response. When we're chronically stressed, our sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive, leading to elevated cortisol levels.
So Vajrasana kind of helps us shift from that state of constant alert to a state of calm and relaxation, thereby reducing cortisol.
Precisely. And lower cortisol levels have a ripple effect throughout the body, benefiting everything from our sleep to our immune system. The pasted text even suggests that this hormonal balancing can improve mental clarity and focus.
That makes sense. It's hard to think straight when you're feeling like frazzled and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Is that the only way Vajrasana is thought to boost mental clarity?
There might be another mechanism at play. Remember how we talked about Vajrasana improving blood flow? Well, some sources suggest that this increased circulation extends to the brain,
Yeah.
providing it with more oxygen and nutrients.
Okay.
This, combined with the calming effect on the nervous system, could create like the optimal conditions for focus and concentration.
So it's like a two-pronged approach,
Okay.
calming the mind and nourishing the brain. I'm starting to see why some practitioners find Vajrasana so beneficial for meditation.
Absolutely. And speaking of meditation, there's another layer to explore here, the concept of chakra balancing. Now, I know this might sound a bit esoteric, but bear with me.
I'm all ears.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Vajrasana is thought to balance the root and sacral chakras. For those of us who weren't, familiar with chakras,
Right.
can you explain what those are and why their balance is important?
Certainly. In yogic traditions, chakras are energy centers located along the spine, each associated with specific physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our being. The root chakra, located at the base of the spine, is associated with grounding, stability, and security.
Okay, so that makes sense in the context of Vajrasana literally grounding us through
Right.
physical contact with the earth.
Yeah.
What about the sacral chakra?
The sacral chakra, located in the lower abdomen, is associated with creativity, passion, and emotional flow.
Okay.
The theory is that by stimulating this area through the posture and breath work involved in Vajrasana,
Right.
we can unblock any stagnant energy and promote emotional well-being.
So it's not just about calming the mind, it's also about tapping into our creative and emotional energy. I'm seeing how all these different aspects of Vajrasana, the physical, mental, and energetic kind of weave together to create this holistic experience.
Exactly. And while scientific research on chakras is limited, many practitioners find this framework helpful for understanding their overall well-being.
It's fascinating how ancient wisdom often aligns with modern scientific discoveries.
Yeah.
We're talking about chakras and energy centers, yet we're also seeing how Vajrasana impacts our hormones and nervous system in ways that can be measured and studied.
It speaks to the interconnectedness of our being, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Now, before we get too carried away with the more mystical aspects of Vajrasana,
Right.
I want to circle back to the scientific evidence. We've talked about anecdotal evidence and traditional wisdom.
Right.
But are there any studies that specifically support these mental and emotional benefits?
You're right to ask that. It's always important to look for scientific validation. While research on Vajrasana specifically is still somewhat limited, we do have some interesting findings from the study published in the International Journal of Advances in Nursing Management.
Oh, right, the one that investigated the effects of Vajrasana on adolescents.
Yes.
What did it reveal about the mental and emotional aspects?
This study, while focusing on a younger population, found a positive correlation between practicing Vajrasana and improvements in several mental health markers, including reduced anxiety and improved mood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But adolescents are already going through so many, emotional and hormonal shifts.
Right.
Is it possible those improvements were just a natural part of their development?
That's a valid point,
Yeah.
and it highlights the need for more research with diverse populations.
Uh-huh.
However, the study did use a control group,
Okay.
which helps isolate the effects of the intervention.
Sure.
The researchers concluded that Vajrasana, practiced consistently over a period of time,
Yeah.
did contribute to the observed mental health improvements.
Okay, so there's at least some evidence to support the claims about, like, reduced anxiety and improved mood.
Mm.
What about the other benefits, like increased focus and mental clarity?
Right.
Are there any studies that address those specifically?
The PMC article on yoga and hypertension, while not focusing on Vajrasana exclusively, does offer some insights. It cites several studies indicating that yoga practices in general can enhance cognitive function,
Okay.
including attention, memory, and executive function.
Sure. So while we might not have studies that isolate Vajrasana's impact on those, like, specific cognitive aspects,
Right.
we can infer that it likely contributes to the overall benefits of yoga on brain health.
Exactly. And the more we learn about the mind-body connection, the more we understand how practices like yoga, including poses like Vajrasana, can influence our mental and emotional well-being.
So where does this leave us? We've explored the potential physical, mental, and emotional benefits of Vajrasana,
Right.
but we've also acknowledged the need for more research. If someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds interesting, but is it really worth adding another thing to my already busy schedule?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I'd say this. Vajrasana is a practice that offers a lot of potential rewards for a relatively small investment of time and effort.
Right.
It's accessible, it can be done almost anywhere, and even a few minutes of practice can have a noticeable impact.
You're right. It's not like you need like a gym membership or fancy equipment. You can literally do it while listening to this deep dive.
Exactly, and that's part of its beauty. It's a practice that seamlessly integrates into daily life. You can do it after meals, before bed, during your workday, whenever you need a moment of grounding and stillness.
I like that it's adaptable and like fits into our modern lifestyles.
Right.
But let's say someone is convinced and wants to give Vajrasana a try. What are some practical tips for incorporating it into their routine?
First and foremost, I'd recommend starting slowly
Oh,
and gradually increasing the duration as your body adapts. The pasted texts suggest 5–10 minutes after meals,
go.
but even a minute or two can be beneficial, especially at the beginning.
And we can't forget about modifications for those with knee issues or discomfort. Remember the Yoga Online article recommended using cushions or blankets for support?
Yes, and you even mentioned the possibility of adapting Vajrasana to a chair for those who need further modification.
Right.
It's all about finding what works for your body and making the practice sustainable.
This leads me to another question.
Right.
While we've been focusing on like the individual benefits of Vajrasana,
Right.
is there a bigger picture here? How does this ancient practice fit into our modern understanding of health and well-being?
That's a great question, and it brings us to like a key takeaway from this deep dive.
Right.
Vajrasana, with its emphasis on mindful stillness, gentle movement, and deep breathing,
Yeah.
embodies a holistic approach to health that's becoming increasingly relevant in our fast-paced, technology-driven world.
You're right. It's like a counterbalance to the constant stimulation and distractions we face every day.
Precisely. And in a society where stress, anxiety, and digestive issues are on the rise, practices like Vajrasana offer a simple yet powerful way to reclaim our inner peace and reconnect with our bodies.
So it's not just about the physical posture or the specific benefits. It's about incorporating like a mindful practice into our lives
Yes.
that can ripple outward and impact our overall well-being. I'm sensing a theme here.
You're picking up on it perfectly. And that theme, I believe, is the interconnectedness of our being. Vajrasana reminds us that our physical, mental, and emotional states are not separate compartments, but rather interwoven aspects of a whole.
It's a powerful reminder. And speaking of powerful reminders, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to make sure we address any like lingering concerns about safety and precautions.
Okay.
We touched on this earlier, but can you reiterate the key points for our listeners?
Of course. While Vajrasana is generally considered safe, it's essential to listen to your body and stop if you experience any pain or discomfort.
Right.
If you have any pre-existing health conditions, especially knee issues, spinal cord disorders, or recent surgery, it's crucial to consult with a healthcare professional before trying Vajrasana. And as with any new exercise program, it's always best to start slowly and gradually increase the duration and intensity.
Excellent advice. Safety should always come first. Now, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive, but there's still so much more to explore. In our final segment, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the long-term potential of Vajrasana and how it might fit into a holistic approach to health and well-being.
I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. Vajrasana is a practice that reveals its depths over time, and I believe its true power lies in its ability to guide us on a journey of self-discovery and transformation.
So we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Vajrasana, exploring its potential benefits for digestion, stress reduction, even mental clarity. It's fascinating how something so seemingly simple can have such a profound impact on our well-being.
It is remarkable, isn't it? Vajrasana really reminds us that true strength often lies in stillness,
Yeah.
in turning our attention inward and cultivating a deeper connection with our bodies.
You mentioned earlier that the true power of Vajrasana reveals itself over time. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've discussed, the immediate benefits, the sense of calm, the improved digestion, the potential for reduced anxiety. But imagine practicing Vajrasana consistently, day after day, week after week. What happens then?
I'm picturing like a gradual shift, almost like a ripple effect.
Yes.
The more we practice stillness and presence through Vajrasana,
Yeah.
the more those qualities might permeate other areas of our lives. Maybe we become more patient, more grounded, more resilient in the face of challenges.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a new way of being in the world.
Yeah.
And that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual unfolding, a deepening of awareness that extends far beyond the yoga mat.
So it's not just about the time we spend in the pose.
Right.
It's about the ripple effect it creates throughout our lives.
I like that. It makes Vajrasana seem less like a quick fix and more like a path, a journey of self-discovery.
Precisely. And like any journey, there will be moments of ease and moments of challenge, times when the practice flows effortlessly, and times when it feels more difficult. But the key is to keep showing up, to approach the practice with curiosity and compassion, and to trust the process. That's a beautiful way to put it. It takes the pressure off achieving, some perfect outcome, and allows us to simply be present with the experience wherever we are on the path.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons Vajrasana has to offer, a reminder to embrace the journey, to find stillness amidst the chaos, and to cultivate inner strength through consistent practice.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what's the one message you'd like to leave our listener with?
Okay.
What's the most important takeaway from our exploration of Vajrasana?
If I had to choose one message, it would be this. Don't underestimate the power of simple practices.
Yeah.
Vajrasana, in its unassuming form, holds the potential to transform not only our physical health, but also our mental and emotional well-being.
That's a powerful reminder. It speaks to the idea that true well-being is often found in the everyday,
Right.
in those small, consistent actions that nourish our bodies and minds.
Beautifully said. And I believe that by incorporating Vajrasana into their routine, even for a few minutes each day, our listener can begin to experience those transformative effects for themselves.
It's certainly inspired me to explore Vajrasana further. Who knows? Maybe I'll even discover those hidden reserves of strength and resilience you mentioned.
I have no doubt you will. Remember, the path to well-being is a continuous exploration. Embrace the journey, stay curious, and keep seeking those practices that bring you closer to your true self.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you for guiding us through this deep dive into Vajrasana.
My pleasure.
It's been an enlightening and inspiring conversation.
It really has. And to our listener, I'll leave you with this final thought. In a world that constantly demands our attention, our energy, our very essence, may Vajrasana be your anchor, your sanctuary, your reminder to return to the stillness within.